Let's talk about the women's game, the women's national championship. We got my South Carolina Lady Gamecocks defeats Iowa in the revenge of last year's Final Four, 87-75. And the way it started pretty ugly for South Carolina. South Carolina gave up a 10-0 run to start, just cold from the field. Caitlin Clark, after her teammates did a great job of putting in buckets, started going crazy. I think she accounted for 13 straight points after her teammates scored, 8? Maybe 7 of the scored the first 7 points. Caitlin Clark first quarter was phenomenal. She finished the first quarter with 18 points alone. And I thought, man, she better have one of them games. She's not trying to go home. I feel it. It's her last game. She trying to go out with a bang. She done heard all the noise. She done heard all the hate, all the skeptics, all that. But that's when second half, I put in the chat. So I think Joe put in the chat, like, Caitlin Clark not trying to go home. She came too far to lose. And I said, South Carolina, we built for this. We built for this. Then I believe we tied it up at 27. Shout out Raven Johnson. Raven Johnson did a phenomenal job on Caitlin Clark. She switched on after Bree Hall got 2 fouls. Or when Bree Hall would go to the bench, Raven Johnson switched on Caitlin Clark. Did a phenomenal job. I think she only gave up 3 points in the second quarter to Caitlin Clark. And that was because, if I remember the quarters correctly, that was because it was a screen up top on the wing. She tried to fight over the screen, couldn't fight over it. And the big, who I think was the backup, the big lady, was in drop coverage to the paint. So Caitlin Clark had nothing but space and opportunity to shoot the ball. And she knocked it down. Oh, you give Caitlin an open shot, that's dangerous. So she did what she did. Not really on Raven Johnson. I think that's more so on the big lady. You got to hedge that. You got to come up. I'm sorry. I understand. I believe Haley set the screen. I understand she can roll. She could be an issue, but you can't give Caitlin Clark an open 3. You can't do it, especially because that could have got dangerous. She could have got going again. She could have all people like Caitlin Clark need shooters like that. All they need is one to go in. Once they see one go in, it's back on. 1 turn to 2, 2 turn to 4. 4 could turn into 6 straight, and then it's a wrap from there. But it ended up just being that 1. I want to say South Carolina was up 44-40 at halftime. Let me double check that real quick. I want to say they was up 44-40 at halftime. No, it was 49 to. I'm remembering UConn, Alabama. That was the score at halftime, 44-40. Sorry about that. That was UConn, Alabama. Iowa, South Carolina was 46-49 at the halftime. South Carolina was up 3. So second half come out, third quarter is that third quarter again. That's what happened against NC State in the Final Four matchup. That third quarter pulls South Carolina apart. South Carolina pulls apart in the third quarter. They go up 9 to end the quarter. Tessa Johnson hit big 3. Shout out to the young freshman. Tessa Johnson hit some big 3s. Malaysia Fluellen, she had a couple big buckets going to the cup. I think she had like a jumper. Cardozo was everywhere, as always. Cardozo on the glass. Cardozo down low, cleaning up shots, making layups, getting fouled. She finished with 17 boards. I want to say she finished maybe with 20. Let me double check. I got the numbers right here. Cardozo finished with 15 to 17. Just doing a bunch. And if she made her free throws, she might have had 20. She got to make them free throws. They free. Definitely Raven Johnson second half kept it up. Kept that defense going on. Caitlin, she going to get her buckets. Caitlin's going to make some shots. But to hold Caitlin Clark to 9 points in the second half is a great feat in its own. And so shout out again, Raven Johnson. Didn't get it going offensively, but what she gave you defensively, you live with it. Hats off. Talked about Tessa Johnson hitting huge 3s. We move on to the fourth quarter, and at some point in the fourth, South Carolina goes up 14 with about 7 minutes left. And I remember Bibby hits the chat like, get them out of here. South Carolina's going to win it. And I'm like, there's a lot of time left because I figured I was not going to die. This is a good team led by one of the best players in the country, if not the best player in the country. And I know they're not going to die. Iowa cuts it to like 4. They cut it to 4, and they almost cut it to 2. But then Haley blows a layup. Haley blows a layup at the rim. It was kind of defended, but she was mostly by herself. She blows the layup. And then I want to say, did we hit a 2 or 3? I can't remember. I want to say Tess hit a 3 after that and put us up 5. And then from there, we just brought the lead back up, went back up again. Like I said, tested some threes. Oh, shout out to Pow Pow. Pow Pow hit some key threes as well. Sorry about that. Yeah, for sure hit some big threes for Pow Pow. Just resiliency. I feel like South Carolina today mirrored Dawn Staley with the resiliency, the will to fight back, not giving up. And once we fought back, the way to not, I ain't gonna say not make no mistakes. So we definitely made turnovers, travel, fouls, all that. And by the way, I do have to say this. People are going to complain about some calls. There was missed calls and bad calls on both sides. Like Caitlin Clark definitely got away with an offensive foul on her first 3. Definitely pushed off, for sure. But I believe like Iowa got called for a phantom foul on Chloe Kitts. I believe we got called for a travel. Could have been a travel, could have been a jump ball. I remember typing something that wasn't a foul that Iowa got called on late in the game with 3 minutes left, and I was like, it's not a foul, but I take it. So the refs just missed calls on both ends, made bad calls on both ends, all the above. But great game by the ladies. I know South Carolina ended up winning it by 12, but it was a really good game throughout. I was nervous throughout some of it, not going to lie, especially when that 10-0 run started. I was like, oh, no, not again. Because if you're in the chat, I called for Iowa. I'm like, I want Iowa. I want to get the revenge. I want Iowa in this championship game because I felt like if South Carolina got past Iowa last year, they would have been back-to-back champs this year. So one of them got the W. Shout out to the Lady Gamecocks again. Can't say it enough. Update that exit. Get to the comments, and then I'm going to preview the men's championship game for tomorrow. We got... Y'all know her as Dawn Staley. I know her as the final boss. She's getting there. She's getting her 3rd national championship in South Carolina. Got more work to do. But she's definitely getting there. She definitely built the powerhouse, and she's definitely been able to sustain it. CC got clamped in the second half. Yeah, Raven Johnson did her thing. Bree Hall did her thing too. Second quarter, she got clamped in the second half. She only gave up 9 points. She was right. In all seriousness, though, Dawn Staley about to mess around and knock Gino off the GOAT, going undefeated like she did this year. She got to do it some more. Gino is the last coach to win an undefeated national championship, so it's not like she's the first to do it. Gino, she got a long way to go to pass Gino. We can't also forget about Pat Summitt. Pat Summitt is for sure up there. So we got to pass Pat. We got to pass Gino. Some might argue Pat's past Gino. Some might argue Gino past Pat. Either way, it's still 2 people who are in front of her. But I don't see nobody else in front of her. CC is great, but her teammates had to step up. That's how they beat UConn, and that would have been the only way they could have beaten South Carolina. This is what I'll say about that. You're right, but South Carolina is also a really great defensive team. So, yeah, you're right in the aspect, but we were allowed to guard Caitlin with one guy. We didn't have to double up top. Once Raven really locked in, it kind of changed everything for us. It made everything so much easier for us. And then they went to that zone, and we were able to kind of expose the zone, being patient, force the turnovers. Raven Johnson plucked Caitlin Clark at least 2-3 times. I would say 2 times successful, maybe 3-4 times not always been successful, but like the steal at the end of the half. She got a steal at the end of the half and laid it up to put us up 3. That was clutch. She plugged her. She plugged her another time, I think, that ended up leading to a layup. So we just played really good defense. But yeah, let's get to the final segment of today's show. The men's championship game tomorrow.